So the dogs are jealous that I ran away with the tuna sandwich because they really wanted
it's
it.
not for you. It's for James.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm just having wise woman tomato soup.
Yeah, so that's good.
And James is also having red or purple cabbage.
Yeah, that's left over from this morning. I usually can only drink one power drink. Well, these are like super power drinks at one sitting.
Yeah, he's already had broccoli sprouts on his sandwich, on his
See?
tuna sandwich.
Yeah. So this is going to be a pretty healthy meal, I'd say.
So we'll talk about these movies.
Okay.
This one, Parasite, is so awesome. It surprised me. It's a Universal Studios thing in Korean. So it's interesting.
Well, Universal might have been taken over by the Koreans. It's hard to say.
Don't know.
You know.
But
didn't Sony take over Columbia back in the day in the 80s or something like that? A Japanese company. So, the Koreans have been doing pretty well,
Yeah. But honestly, this movie, it's subtitles. So if you're not into reading subtitles, you will be for this movie. It's that good. So I watched it right through and was so glad that I did. So yes, I had to devote all of my time to it. I couldn't be making sauerkraut or whatever because I was having to read.
Or making up food puns.
Yeah.
No, this is before the food puns.
Yeah,
that was today.
Well before it. Today we were doing food puns. But this movie, you may watch it and depending on what your socioeconomic background is, you might be thinking certain people in the movie are supposed to be the parasites. The movie is not called Parasites. It's called Parasite. So figure it out. And it's well worth it. Watch this.
So there's not even a pair of parasites, is what you're saying.
Not even a pair.
Okay, there we go.
It's one parasite that you're supposed to notice in this, not a bunch. So anyway, well worth watching. Everyone should watch this movie. Now, Daniel isn't real. It seemed really homemade, but high quality. They did. There was a bit at the beginning that seemed a little bit cut and paste.
It kind of got you in media res, which is in the middle of things. I think that's a Latin thing for maybe a Greek concept. They talk about the Iliad. The Iliad.
Yeah, and that's what's popular nowadays. Is they start right off with action.
Yeah.
And then kind of build a story up.
Sure.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, you get a story. Yeah. So that's what they did. They started with action, and it seemed a little choppy, but you get it later on, right? So I think they actually did a good job. It was scary for me. I felt it was. Did you think it was scary?
Well, the scariest I find horror movies. Well, I find scary is cancer, but real life stuff. But it was. I don't find horror movies really scary. Almost dying from cancer is scary, right? Everything scales down from there. So.
Yeah. All right, and this one, James watched more of it than I did. I have to admit, Crown Vic. So I'm not.
Oh yeah.
I'm not really.
No, you wouldn't have been into it at all, right? And I wouldn't have been.
But they did a good job. I could even tell that from how little I was looking up for it or coming in the room. I noticed that it seemed believable for the most part. Although you pointed out they were not wearing latex gloves while handling people.
Okay, it's what they tend to wear is rougher gloves than that.
Oh.
So they'll wear black
gloves,
like leather gloves or whatever.
So they're not having to dispose it constantly then. They're just
No, they wouldn't pay for that sort of stuff. Like I was doing janitorial and they were saying, can't you use one set of gloves I used a different set of gloves for every washroom. Can't you use one set of gloves for the whole thing? And I'm going, what? Okay. So I start picking up garbage, and then I'm cleaning desks, and then I clean the washroom. So I finish up one washroom, and I finish with the toilets, and then I go into the next washroom where I'm starting with the doors, the sinks. You guys are so brilliant.
If that's
I'm
what you
not
want.
the one who set the policy for having latex gloves. Eventually, I would have bought them on my own if they hadn't. But I am not going to use stuff that is soiled from cleaning out toilets on the next washroom. I'm sorry. So here they are, management guys sitting around with their feet up on the desk, wasting thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're getting chimpy about, a few cents every day or a few bucks every day. And where it's a health issue, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what the cops tended to wear 25 years ago when I was working at the cop shop, and now I was parachuted in there, it was not my choice. I cut off my hair, I had long hair at that point in time, and I think I had a beard, and I worked undercover. I was watching people work. I was working undercover, watching people working undercover. They never realized I was a left winger. They knew it was a little bit different. One cop, he's a nice guy, said, "James, you're kind and caring." And all I said is, "I'm kind, but I can only care so much. I've only got so much energy." But so they knew I was different. That's not to say, there's some cops that were kind, but I don't think one of them was as kind as me. But so the Crown Vic is short for Crown Victoria. Back then they were driving around Crown Victorias. I presume they're still driving them around. I think back then they were some of the last cars made out of metal, because they weren't going to be driving around a little smart car made out of plastic and get run over by some guy in a 4x4, turned into one of those monster truck tricks or whatever. So, the thing that kind of captured my attention was they were generally getting things right, the guy who's kind of like the central figure here, he's not really a hero. You'll see if you watch it. He was like so many guys that I ran across, right? Not all of them, there's some nice cops. And then the rookie here is a little bit raw-faced, but I've seen these guys come up, the pretty boy faces and all this sort of stuff. And he's been trained in a certain way, and then the guy's been trained in that way, but that training has gone by the wayside. And it's kind of like the rules are made up as you go along. They were actually showing criminals basically the way they were, criminals aren't like on TV shows where you tell them to put your hands up and they actually do. They'll start running or whatever. When you get hold of them, they will fight. They'll be cussing and cursing. They don't fess up to crimes and all this sort of stuff. So basically they got the feel right. They kind of had the two undercover guys. Now understand, the undercover guys, what they do is they start behaving like criminals, even more than cops. They're kind of like criminals. But what they do is they start doing method acting. So hopefully it's not 24/7. I hate to think they bring those personae home to the family. But, they'll be cussing and swearing. I was telling them, dudes, don't do the Norman Mailer thing. People actually say the F word with a K in it, and they pronounce it that way. They were saying the F word like a G. And I say, you guys are sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, so they're doing it like the Hallmark movies.
Something like that.
I don't know if Hallmark even says it. With
yeah. So they were saying...
I'm just being a
back in The Naked and the Dead, Norman Mailer had people say fugging, and that's what they were saying, because it was just too harsh to say it the other way. So it's stronger. It's a stronger sound, the consonant, unvoiced consonant, said in the same part of the throat as the G. It's just a softening sort of thing. But, what they were doing is they were really, their humor got randier and rowdier and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. It was kind of unreal because they didn't have them wearing long hair. I presume they've still got them wearing long hair. What they did was they ran them on a 3-year shift. And the first year they really didn't look the part, right? Because their hair and the beard was growing in. By the time they got to the 3rd year, they looked totally scabrous and stuff like that. The other thing, I think, what did they have them driving? Was it some sort of it was a beater, like an 80s beater, a big sort of thing?
I don't know, I wasn't paying attention.
I don't know what they do in the big city like LA. I was wondering, I knew that there was these undercover guys and all this sort of stuff, and they kept on talking about their shagging mobile or whatever. And they didn't talk about that with the pimp mobile. And I'm going, what are they driving around? I was so innocent. It's got to be like a microbus, a VW microbus, with graffiti painted on the side, like "Don't laugh, we have your daughters in here," or something like that. But hey, I actually saw that back on the road in the early 70s, right? We got behind a microbus. And, that was my dad. We had a big Mercury Meteor buddy microbus. Anyway, and, he never got in a bad accident. We never got in a bad accident with him, all that sort of stuff. But one time, he shouldn't have done it. He was in front of the cop shop. And it was actually the sergeant who was ahead of the 3 guys that they were working narcotics. He was pulling a right-hand turn, and I was in the intersection. And he came zooming, rightly, like clipped my toenails. Like it was 4 lanes. And he clipped on the inside lane, and I was coming across. I was in the lane closest to him. And I'm looking, it was a yellow Viper, and I'm going, I'm so naive. Of course. They want to look like big wheelers and dealers, right?
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. So, Anyway, hopefully they don't have the same yellow, I kind of swore myself to secrecy. So I don't want to cause trouble for them. I'm not really terribly sympathetic when it's a waste of time. Basically, all they did was do drug busts, right?
Yeah.
And I can remember one time they were going through high school yearbooks, and I go, "Are you guys pervs?" I was thinking that. I should have been joking like that because that's the kind of jokes that they'd have. But I said, "What are you doing?" And they said,
No,
we're looking for targets." And I said, "What's that?" And they
Honestly, it would be so easy to do drug busts. You could pretty much just say, set up a little police outlet in the apartment building over there.
Yeah.
And there you go. They come to you.
Oh, well, this happened.
So-
They were so happy about this one bus.
Yeah.
They'd come back from the end of the day, and they were saying, the one guy was saying, he looked like a kind of like a fallen Mormon choir boy. And he was saying, "Man, oh man, we really got one today." I said, "So what happened?" He said, "I was just wrapping up. I was putting my wire away and all this sort of stuff. And I guess it was in this yellow Viper, right? And this guy coming through from Quebec to BC, or vice versa, I think he was heading to BC, he stops him and says, "Are you looking?"
So he was being a
He
big
got
joker.
busted. No, he got busted.
Oh,
He
wow.
was saying, "Are you looking to sell?" The guy's just going, yeah. And they made the deal.
Oh, that's
so the
funny.
guy came looking for them. I guess he
Wow.
saw this flashy yellow Viper.
All right.
It's
So
hilarious.
you wanted to talk about COVID.
Well, I prefer not to talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's become a topic of not just concern, but major concern. We just walked down to the library, and I was saying, I hope they've closed it up.
Yeah, and they did.
And they actually closed
They
it up.
did.
So I saw a guy on the way back. That's a guy I was talking to at the end of the
I
alley.
know. You
And
shouldn't be talking to people you don't.
okay, he
Okay,
was
go ahead.
downwind of me. And I asked, so has it hit Lethbridge yet? And I was surprised. He said, no, not officially. So there you go. They actually closed the chicken coop door before the fox, at least officially, got inside the chicken coop. Very good, Lethbridge Public Library and or the City of Lethbridge.
Yeah.
Very good. You did the job. You're one of the very few government organizations that has actually done the job, and this is around the world. Now, we'll see what the university is like tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Or we'll phone.
We'll
and
phone.
see. It should be closed.
We
They had a
should've
whole
phoned
weekend to
before,
get
but I needed some exercise anyway.
We're talking about getting
Yeah.
exercise because
This-
so often the exercise that we get, me would be at the university, you would be going to the
It's
library.
walking.
So yeah,
It's always walking. So it's
a great day
either
for-
like in the winter and stuff, it happens to be mostly walking in town.
yeah.
And in the summer, it's hiking usually.
yeah.
So,
So I wanted noted. I'm applauding. I'm not just all negativity about this sort of stuff. I'm actually applauding Donald Trump for putting a travel ban on China way back in the middle of January, 2 months ago. But understand, it should have been a travel ban on everyone traveling everywhere. It should have been just shut down.
oh, for sure.
worldwide.
Because like here in Canada, what do we have? They're recommending that people, I don't even know if they're stopping people. I think they're just recommending that they don't travel if they're over age 60.
Or have some sort of
Yeah.
underlying condition.
But the
And,
thing is,
No. And they're
is-
saying travel internationally, only do if it's necessary. Hey, Justin, or I'm going to start calling you in Justin Trudeau. What are you doing or maybe you were telling your wife, please don't do it, or something like that. I guess you can't tell your wife, and you shouldn't be, what to do. But this should not have been allowed to happen. Have you got it, buddy? Are you hiding it? He's in 14 days isolation, and we won't know whether he had it or not.
No.
You stupid moron. What you've done is you and your wife have gummed up the system. How many people are going to die because they're going to have to check out all the contacts that you and your wife and your kids and your mom had after
so
this
we
sort
should
of
point
thing?
out that Mrs. Trudeau has contracted the coronavirus.
Well, that's what I've heard. I don't know. I haven't heard
know.
anything
But,
to the...
You know, a lot of what we get over what we talk about in what anybody talks about, actually, the small talk, dinner table talk, whatever, is just rumor. You don't know, right? Until you look things up for yourself, and then you go through try to get as reliable sources as you can and go from there, right? But you don't know. So anyway, rumor, she has it. Rumor, she got it from, she went to a feminist conference or something.
A women's conference. I don't know
whatever.
how feminist it was.
Whatever.
In England.
Women's rights thing.
Yeah.
In England. And both her and her mother-in-law went, right?
Apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So she would have been pretty old to be...
Her mom is older than me. You're about the same age.
Yeah.
So she's
So
probably about 70.
they were traveling. And the thing is you could be 20 years old, traveling around on junkets throughout the world, and it's very selfish and greedy. If you're 20 years old and you're traveling around right now, you are
Shame on
both
you.
selfish and greedy.
Yeah. You
So,
don't care about poor people.
You don't. Because honestly, everywhere that you go, if you catch COVID and you go to, say, some African country that doesn't have great health care, doesn't have, the people don't have a lot of money to worry about hygiene, and they're just having to work just to try not to starve or whatever, or, that's, honestly, you should be charged with manslaughter. If anybody,
I think
where
so.
you go, if you've given them, honestly.
War criminal, it should be actually worse. Now, crimes, negligent crimes against humanity.
Yeah. And so let's say you're in Canada and even if you're under 60 and you're traveling around, you're coming back. I have a loved one who works in the service industry at a grocery store. A lot of places they're saying, oh, don't go out anywhere like where they have it bad unless you need groceries. Okay, so you're going to go to the let's say where my loved one works, it hits hard because frankly, it's been welcomed in. So coronavirus has been welcomed into Canada.
Yes, it has.
And
Because we've
so
proven
say
we're
it
not
hits
racist.
hard where my loved one is, and people who have the virus are out then going to get groceries, because even where they have strict stay-at-home, there a lot of places they're still letting people out to get groceries. Why? They should be delivered. What phone? Have the groceries
Absolutely
delivered.
right. It should be
They
quarantined.
should not be getting out. So then, my loved one is over age 60, working in the service
She is.
industry. How is she protected? And I'm hearing on the CBC, oh, people shouldn't have to worry about whether they, lost wages while they're staying home due to corona or whatever. And it's like, okay, shouldn't have to worry? Or are you going to guarantee that you're going to give those people the wages? Why is my loved one having to work at the grocery store right now? She's over age 60, so she's susceptible.
Yeah. People like that should be laid off with full, not unemployment insurance. I'm afraid, Trudeau's guaranteed unemployment insurance, but that's not the same amount of money as a person would. It should be full wages. Anyone who's at risk.
So if she catches it, should I be able to sue Justin Trudeau?
In Justin Trudeau. Yeah.
Should I? Honestly.
You should be able to.
I should.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I lose that loved one, it's really, he should be charged for welcoming the virus in and sending it to her.
Yeah.
Because, essentially that's what's happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
The response was, like the Globe and Mail, they're a right-wing paper. They're on a bit the different side of the political spectrum from Justin Trudeau. He's kind of center, maybe a little bit left. And they were saying last time I checked, he's been such a good example, calm and measured response. If you're driving a big SUV, you've just turned a corner, and all of a sudden you're confronted with a huge crowd of kids playing street hockey or something like that, a calm and measured response is not appropriate. You put on the brakes.
Yeah.
You put on the brakes. It's insane. Some people seem to think, because Fox Network is saying, like old people and over 60 and 80 and people with conditions, they're just going to die. Understand, the people that are actually, they're doing that to defend Trump. But around the world, the people that are saying, you don't do quarantines, don't do travel bans, because it's there is a problem with civil liberties, are left wing. Wake up! Now here's the deal about what's happening with COVID. You've actually, for the health and safety of people, you've got to have some rules. For example, here in Canada, you're not allowed, except under certain conditions, to drive on the left-hand side of the road. If people are just making their rules because they got civil liberties, people die.
Yeah.
There are places in the third world where there are no real rules of the road. You'll have people passing, going over a hill. And so here's one guy describing, I'm not going to mention the country, I don't want to pick out countries, I'm not even going to mention the continent. 30-mile ride, 6 horrible ambulance kind of jaws of life accidents. And it's because there's no rules of the road. It's not just, and people aren't willing to abide by them.
Well, the thing is in a lot of the countries that haven't put the travel bans on, such as
Canada,
really the only freedoms, the only people that they're protecting the freedoms of are the selfish, greedy, wealthy assholes.
People who can afford to travel internationally.
That's who they're protecting.
When's the last time I traveled internationally? It's 1991.
Their rights to be selfish and greedy.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. So stop.
The other thing they're saying is travel bans don't work, because in the long run, what will happen is countries who have travel bans on them, if there's a threat of a travel ban, they won't reveal things. Guess what? That's already been disproven, because there was no threat of travel bans on China, and they go along and hide it anyway.
Yeah,
same thing with Iran. They're hiding it anyway. So that little thing, this was something that was repeated in the last week. Travel bans, you've got to use them. Yes, people are going, like when you say don't drive on the left hand of the, I can remember one time a guy tried to pass me in the middle of the street. This was 2 lanes. Thoroughly illegal what Bozo did. And there are going to be a certain number of people that do that. What you've got to do is kind of minimize that and set some standards for people. The response around the world, aside from the Lethbridge Public Library, has been not just inadequate, it has been criminally negligent.
I brought the towel out.
And it's not just regular crime, it's not just a felony. These are crimes against humanity. I don't know how many people are going to die, but it's looking like it'll be millions unless something happens when it gets warmer in June or something like that, or unless someone really does the job out in academia. Here's a challenge to you guys. Do the job instead of sitting around and actually comes up with a vaccine. Do the job. I'm tired of you guys in academia just sitting around on your duff on our coin.
I've heard about CBC saying, people shouldn't have to worry about it, if you...
Well, the CBC is amazing.
And it's ridiculous.
Defund those guys. I'm a left-winger. Defund those guys.
Honestly, the only financial bailout or whatever that I've heard about so far has been to the travel industry, hasn't it?
Well, I thought it was going to be travel insurance. This is what should have happened. Travel bans. For people who've already put their money down, in whole or in part, total remuneration by the government. But I don't think they've even done that now. So people out there was some idiot writing the Globe and Mail from Italy. And they were over there. My suspicion is they went there after January the 1st. Absolutely irresponsible. And they don't seem to realize how much of a confession that is. But here's this bozo saying, it hit Italy. And we were wondering, do we go back now or should we stay? Now we'll stay. I'm going, you morons. You're taking the chance of getting it. You're increasing your chance of, and then bringing it back to us. Thank you. What they should do to people like that is, where is your citizenship papers? Thank you. We're keeping those. Where's the nearest fire? And with a lighter here? You can stay. Go wherever you want.
Yeah,
man,
honestly,
oh man.
Well, I've only heard of, there's only been one person in Canada die so far, right?
Well, I was talking to that guy. He said 8 in the Vancouver area.
8 now.
Of course. You see, the way it goes is like this. So as of last Thursday, it was 1.
Okay.
So I don't know how many were in that nursing
traveling?
home. Well, the one in the nursing home, they're not sure how the person caught it.
No.
So my suspicion it was some little visitor coming in, right? Right? How do you keep track of all that sort of
I
stuff?
don't know.
Theoretically, they should be able to keep track of the people working there. So my brother was saying,
sign in.
Generally, they should sign in, but
Yeah, they should.
I don't know if we signed in going to my dad's place.
We never did.
No.
But they should.
Those
Everybody
things,
should.
those things, even in regular times, anything with the seniors in should be like a fortress. You don't get in. Some of them are a bit like that, like the one.
We need to start our own senior center with sign-in sheets to protect the people who live there.
So I'm going to get a chemo tomorrow at the local hospital here, and we'll see what it's like. I've said to Pauline, I'm going to be disappointed if it's not like a fortress. I should, when I'm going through, should be checked for fever, right? By someone who's wearing a mask and a face mask and the apron and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think it's going to be that way. In good weather, it actually should be a kiosk outside, and they should have little things lined up so people even outside.
Yeah, because you don't have
Are
to
within
touch
a
people.
meter
You
of
just
each
have a
other.
little thing.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures what they do
Beep.
in Japan
There's your
and
temperature.
South Korea and stuff like that. It's really important to slow it down. It looks like South Korea is having a 1% death rate. And what they're doing is they've had drive-through checkups, right? You just drive through. You don't do this phone thing and wait, right?
Yeah.
At least you can sit in your car and maybe get in a lineup or something like that.
Yeah.
But, Korea had it way before we did. I haven't heard about them setting up those sorts of things. They should have been doing that as soon as they found
you've
out
talked about Italy and how they have a small...
social distance,
Yeah.
right? Oh,
And
it's
that's the
awful in
difference
Italy. It
between
looks like a 7% death rate. And I think it's because their hospitals have just been hit so hard. That's why you slow it down. And I knew it. They were saying, we can't check it with travel bans. We can't check it with quarantines. We can only slow it down. What's the use of that? What is the use of that? You can protect the healthcare system. Otherwise, healthcare workers get knocked out. And then they're sick at the best. Think about it. If 30% to 70% of people get the disease, how many work days are going to be lost?
Yeah.
It's 14 days minimum, right? So actually, if you look at how much of the economy is going to be lost, it will be 1/25th, right? That's 2 weeks, and that's 2 into roughly 50 weeks, right? 1/25th of the year, and so that's 4% if everyone gets sick. So 1/3 of that would be over 1%. 2/3 of that would be over 2%. That's how much of a hit you're going to take economically just from people staying home. Just from people staying